So many people are asking the president, where is the recovery? And so long in coming. So almost 5 years now since President Obama has taken office, and we still are not out of the woods. Um, Jobs are not fully back, though there are slight improvements. And so the Republicans are saying that, oh man, what's up? And we all know that they're obstructing many things. The um, stimulus package, they didn't give them the amount of money needed, plus the required money for the different projects and all that. So the money wasn't getting spent. And they even talk about this as being worse, and if I use the word worse rebel than the depression, because apparently from the depression it recovered earlier. But again, my continuing theme today in America, there are just a few folks that are really educated. Folks, went to school, they just had a bunch of sex, a bunch of drugs, drinks, and partying, and they just graduated. And they haven't learned nothing. Because you hear economists, I mean, of course, they could be partisan and political, but I think that genuinely they don't know what they're talking about. Because they didn't study nothing. When you look at these two things, they're different. There is, in economics, the economic cycle. You have recovery, boom, recession, trough, and recovery. So that if you're stuck down at the bottom there, recession, just before recovery, right at the bottom there, the trough, if you stay there for a long time, it seems as if that is a depression. And then the other things to compound it, high unemployment, with things getting very expensive because people not buying, therefore whatever's going to be sold has to sell at a higher price so that people can still make the money to take care of the fixed expenses, the rents, the utilities, salaries, and all the things like that. But what we had here in '08, it wasn't an economic cycle, one of the phases of the economic cycle. This was collapse, and that's the big key. You see, a lot of folks don't understand what was happening. The country was about to collapse by design. The enemy using the bush them to get us fighting the wind, and this long, spend a whole bunch of money and all this stuff in the Middle East. There were these crusades. That's by design. It would have collapsed if Jeb Bush had come on, or if George Bush II had another 4 years to go, or something like that. So when Obama come in, basically, it was, should we remember it's too big to fail, and some people saying, let them fail, and this is capitalism, this is America, some will fail, some will make it, and all that stuff. They didn't understand what was happening, and they giving a whole bunch of people credit for this strategy, but they even give the Indian Prime Minister, which I hardly think. I mean, he's an economist, but he's asleep. In the '08, he was asleep. He didn't understand what was going on here. Among many people, I was one who was saying that it was over, and you just can't let the commanding heights of the economy to fail. You have to go out, and the president chose a bad word of bailout. It shouldn't be bailout. It should be a loan. I'm giving these guys a loan so they could take care of the business, and they're gonna have to pay me back. And that's what he actually did, but they just call it a bailout. So people, saying, oh, they should have bailed them out, should bail out the citizens. Well, I mean, look, man, business and citizens are both important. But in this instance, giving the businesses the bailout would be good, because you're going to have to bail out citizens every day. But when the businesses had recovered, they're going to find jobs, provide jobs, and the whole thing is going to just keep going on, because people live paycheck to paycheck. All right, businesses try to have some reserves and so on. Okay, although they try to structure business, they live in year to year, because almost all of the retained earnings or the excess, they try to give it out to the shareholders, which I think they should keep a sizable portion to keep the interest going and so on. All right, over time save, so that they could have like 5 to 10 years, enough funds to let it continue. However, the big difference is that was one of the cyclical cycles, one of the phases in the economic cycle of recession, recovery, boom, trough. All right, but the collapse is not one of those. Collapse is when it's the end, and if the president, and by the way, the president listened to everybody. I recall Bush was saying, to or against, um, those who are not with me are against me, something like that. But it was like a threat. You better don't oppose him. You better think like him. And I mean, he really, he went to Yale, but you know, I mean, he's not a scholar. I don't know, or whatever. And to follow his opinions just because he says follow me, I mean, that'll be a catastrophe. All right. And so he came on. He listened to people. He listened, and for some reason him to help the businesses, and many of them have paid back the money. But of course, why we have had that significant job situations, that things are different now. People are scaling back. We're using technology and so on, computers and other things to do the job, whereas humans, all the whole disadvantages and advantages of mechanization or robotics as opposed to human and so on. Okay, and so this, I think, should clear up it. We were in a depression. We weren't in a depression in the 30s. It was a depression, and you could come out of that faster. When you're talking about collapse, I'll make another video on how you come out of a collapsing situation. That, in other words, with that video and this video, you will see how we really could, achieve that full employment that we're looking for. But in short, there's a difference between what happened in the 30s and what happened in '08. We were in a depression then, a business cycle, one of the phases, but we were in collapse. If we hadn't helped the businesses and do those things that we needed to do, it would have collapsed. The whole world would have collapsed. It would have been over by now.